Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the Jerick Show, the only, I tell you, show you need to watch on a weekly basis to get your fix of cybersecurity news, views, opinions, thoughts, and all the other things that are going on. I'm just dragging it out because I was actually speaking to Eric earlier in the day, and he was saying he just loves it when people drag out introductions and go on and on and on, because that might have happened in a meeting and he was actually face palming like crazy. Anyway, on to the show.
Welcome to the Jerick Show, featuring your hosts Javvad Malik and Eric Qlin. Timely topics, poorly presented.
And you know, I saw this interesting post today that on LinkedIn, and someone was saying how like we should normalize just putting normal posts on LinkedIn. It's about like not everything has to be turned into a life affirming kind of adventure where, you know, if you went to the shops and you forgot your wallet at home, you don't need to make a whole post about how, and this is what this taught me about cybersecurity. Oh, so look who invited themselves to the show. Speaking of face palming.
Yeah, indeed. Don't forget, I do have the ability to add myself. So I appreciate the blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is you were just talking about was very blah, blah, blah.
I was saving people from your face and your voice, your miserable face, as if you just bitten into a lemon.
You know, I do have to say that because of the job we're in, and maybe we're in this job because of that, but we do like to hear our own voices, don't we?
I don't think you could last in this job very long if you don't. So funny thing is, like from years ago, I was making like YouTube videos or something, and I was editing a video. My wife walks into the room and she said, like, don't you ever get tired? Like, people record their voice or see themselves on camera and they hate to watch it again. And here you are scrubbing through the video time and time again, cutting it from here, cutting it from there. And I just turn around and say, hey, I'm my own biggest fan. And I said it kind of in jest, but the more time goes on, I think that's probably more true than I care to admit.
Yeah, you know what? I hate seeing myself. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I hate seeing you too.
Yeah, I don't watch like my presentations and stuff afterwards, and I know it's like, well, you should watch it and see things where you could improve. I cannot stand watching my webinars
improved.
later.
In the 10 years I've known you, you've not improved the presentation.
Possibly,
stuff.
But you know, that's just a matter of I started off good enough that I don't really need to improve.
Wow, see, that's such a position of privilege, like, you know, a place to cover. Actually, James was telling me about a good technique. He goes like, once you do a presentation, if you got the recording, watch it again without any audio, so you're just focusing on your body language. Then just listen to the audio of it, so you're only focusing on the words and what, and then listen to it all together. And he goes, it will give you some different perspectives on how you present. And I thought that's really good.
It's actually a very interesting idea. I kind of like that a little bit. But then I'm going to be watching the thing the whole time going, you really need to drop some weight, man. You really need to, you know what I mean? It's like, you can be critical of all that stuff, not necessarily your movements and all that, but, you know, oh, that shirt really makes me look fat. And,
you know, it's funny because in January, I think I was on stage and James was up front and he was like, he got a really unflattering angle of me. And I thought, oh my God, I really need to lose weight. And then I was like trying to convince myself that, no, I don't really, because it's about the content and the delivery. And then I thought, no, I do. I mean, health aside, I was thinking, you put yourself out there, you want to put yourself out there in the best form possible. You don't want to wear a stained shirt with like grease on it or something. You don't want to turn up to places looking unprofessional or unhygienic and what have you. So, you know, whatever you can do, whatever is in your control, I think, you know, you should try to do to make yourself look good, or make it appear as if you made an effort.
I'm just trying to grow my beard out to where it covers my belly, and then I don't have to worry about it.
You need a very, very long beard. Anyway,
man. Hey,
maybe we can have an AI beard or something in the future that could project itself onto you.
Man,
But speaking of stories or AI projecting, Google rolls out on-device AI protections to detect scams in Chrome and Android. And I just wanted to take a second just to say, like, how these are words that make sense, but like if 10, 15 years ago you'd read out this whole sentence, I would not have understood any other context or the meaning of it. But this seems really interesting. And you've gone through this, haven't you?
well, a little bit, yeah. But I was looking at some of the stuff here, like the texting and things like that, where it's popping up and it's going, hey, wait a minute. And I'm actually really excited about this because from what I can tell, it's looking at like the content and the context of what's going on in these messages. And, I got to say, as much as I absolutely believe that education and all that kind of stuff is very important with helping people avoid scams, you also have like the elderly folks, right? And they're not necessarily very technically savvy. They're trusting, they do all this kind of stuff. And so by giving them big warnings like this and going, hey, you know what? This is something we should watch. That's a good thing. Now, the argument can also go back into the privacy issues of allowing it to look at all these different conversations and stuff. And at its heart, we always have to remember Google is an advertising agency. Okay. So Chrome, all this kind of stuff, it is absolutely collecting data about you all the damn time. So we're going to have to weigh that a little bit, but I was very happy to see this happening, especially for older folks or folks that are more prone to these types of attacks.
There's some kids, people watching this out there saying they are the older folks. What are they talking about?
Yeah. Exactly.
There are people who are born after the year 2000 who work with us. So like, it's who are in the workforce, should I say.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So let's put it that. I do think this is a great use. I mean, this is a conversation I was having a couple of days ago or something. Someone's saying like, hey, what's a good like deep fake or AI detection technology to prevent scams? And I was like, well, that's really the wrong question to be asking, because it doesn't really matter whether content is generated by AI or not, because, hey, we all use it. I mean, even in, say, like if you use Google, there's Gemini built into it now. So you can just say, help me write this message. And so, do you want that flagged up as a AI generated message? No, because it's probably perfectly legit. It's like, the standard, like, thanks for your email, I'll get back to you whenever. And what is important is the intent, the sentiment, the context within which these messages are coming and going. And I think that is really what's essential. So if you can flag those things up, say like, hey, this is a really strange request, or this is like, seems like they're pressuring you, or this is the first time this number has ever contacted you and now they're asking you to send them money. All these things are really good motivators, because from a detection point of view, you might not be able to say 100%, oh, this is spam, it belongs in the junk folder or what have you. But you want to give enough heads up to the recipient to say, just be a bit careful of this. And sometimes that's all people need. They just need that little bit of heads up, or enough of a banner that they can say, let me call someone who's a bit more tech savvy to help me out with this.
Indeed.
See, speechless, just agrees. Qlin ransomware ranked highest in April 2025 with 72 data leak disclosures. I am not familiar with this.
That's kind of the point here. Is now they've been around for a while. I want to say since like 2022, but they haven't been kind of a big deal. Some of their latest stuff is taking off though. I mean, and one of the reasons I actually wanted to bring this on, not just because of this Qlin group, but also because I've been finding that people are like, oh, well, I'm not hearing about ransomware much anymore, right? Like it's not making the headlines, other than there were some recent ones over there, especially, but for the most part, we used to hear about it every day. Something, major had happened, but this was 72 of them in April. That's insane, but it's happening to a lot of smaller and medium-sized organizations where it doesn't make the news. And so what worries me about that is I'm always concerned that the organizations that are most targeted might let their guard down because they're not seeing it in the news nearly as much. But this is proof that these groups are incredibly active, they're well-funded, and they're working very, very hard to get in there and still steal and or encrypt data. It kind of depends on what it's doing here. But this is another example of how these groups are trying to innovate. And that's what's really driven this, is some new innovations to their ransomware strains. And they're out there. That's all. I just thought it was important to see that. Holy cow, that's 72 organizations just in April with this one group.
Yeah. How much does that work out? That's like almost 4 for every working day. It's
geez, man. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but wow, yeah, that's a really good point.
That's
so
huge.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
staying on ransomware.
Yes, but here is the bright side of it.
Yes. Yes.
So Lockbit 4 had really jumped ahead and was one of the top ones earlier, like in the last month or so before that. So they had really, really jumped ahead, and then boom, they got hit again. And keep in mind, I mean, Lockbit got busted, I think last year or something, that a whole bunch of their folks got picked up and put away, but still they're out there and alive. These are pretty resilient groups these days. It used to be if somebody got busted, they just kind of folded up and then came back under a new name. Yeah, but they're still running, and they recently did Lockbit 4, which was doing some pretty decent stuff. But I saw this popping up in the Twitters and stuff the other day about them getting hit, and the dump sites and stuff like that. So they were able to pull Bitcoin wallet addresses and stuff like that, which is going to make it awesome for looking into where this is going. They're going to have to spin up a whole bunch of new stuff if they're going to keep that going. And, you showed me the other day a pretty cool tool that goes out and does a whole bunch of OSINT work. And one of the things you can use on there is Bitcoin wallet addresses. So you could almost throw a few of those in there, correlate them, and see if they connect in different ways. Yes. It would be an interesting exercise to do. But yeah, this is a lot of very interesting information that's out there. The flip side to this is, though, if this stuff is out there, for example, detailed information about victims, a lot of those organizations that didn't report it, they might get thrown under the bus a little bit.
Yeah, but it's understandable. But I think also, like what you were saying, that before they used to like get someone used to get done and they used to just spin up with a different name or something. I think now there's also like there's brand value in these things. Like if you can spin up something called Lockbit, you've immediately got the attention of like the victim organizations, because you want them to know that you're serious and you're an effective and well-established cybercrime syndicate. You're not to be messed with. So it's
generally speaking, though, there's protections against that. Like there's going to be a shared code base, an original code base. So if they don't act like they did before, then it's probably going to nobody's going to buy that crap. But you're right. I mean, there's some immediate recognition. Now we saw some of the groups, what is it? Akira, I think, was potentially spun off of Conti, or at the very least, they used a bunch of Conti's code in their own code base because Conti got leaked. I think that was the split between the Ukrainians and the Russians back then.
Yes, the Russians, yes.
Right. So their code got leaked and someone picked it up, but Akira's been hitting the streets pretty hard too. So yeah, it's amazing the politics and stuff
Mm.
that goes on behind the scenes in these groups these days.
Absolutely. And yeah, I suppose you can't sue each other for copyright infringement. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, and then you got groups like Scattered Spider.
yeah.
So we talked about that a little bit in one of our meetings earlier today, but Scattered Spider is very heavy on the vishing side. So it's voice phishing, and they get away with it because it's like a bunch of Brits, it's US folks, Canadians. I think now they did bust some of those folks. I want to say they got like 4 Americans and a Scottish guy or something, which I don't know about vishing and Scottish because I can't understand the damn thing you say anyway. I mean, you would almost have to target it, but it's not an Eastern European type accent or one of those accents that people would really cue in on. We hear a British accent like yours, and we're suddenly already trusting that person. And so those groups, though, that's a loosely gathered group. It's kind of like, B-sides conferences.
Yeah.
Where it's very loosely gathered around the B-sides thing, but everything has its own like flavor. So those people getting busted didn't actually have any effect on the overall group, which was a very interesting thing to see happen.
Exactly. And sticking to the topic of ransomware, and I think we'll just wrap up with ransomware today.
Okay.
But you said like how earlier you said that because it's not in the news, people might feel that ransomware isn't that big a deal anymore. But UK cyber insurance claims second highest on record.
Wow.
So the 2024 UK cyber insurance claims trend report says that the last year, where was the...
So it actually decreased from 2023.
But was still around 1/3 higher than 2020, 21, and 2022.
Interesting.
So 23 was high because of the Move It campaign.
Right. That was kind of a one-off.
Yeah. But it's an increase in the community, comms, media, tech, retail, and wholesale, and power and utilities and financial institutions. All of these have seen an increase.
So an interesting thing I saw, so Sophos has released their numbers, and I'm always a little bit sketchy about Sophos numbers, but they're saying the average ransom was up to 2.73 million, I think. But the number of claims is down, and what that's kind of saying is the claim amounts are higher, but the number of claims is actually lower. I think a lot of folks are especially like the ransom payments are lower. We're paying less than we used to, less often.
So
we're getting
this article, the first part, this is just talking about claims overall.
Right. Okay.
Cyber claims overall. But ransomware related claims were double that of 2020, 2021, and 2022.
Oh, wow.
So and this goes exactly to your point. The demands are increasing as victim numbers decrease, but threat actors are meeting a more professional response these days.
Interesting. Yep.
So because they're experiencing fewer paydays, they're trying to maximize the profitability of it. And so there are lots of firms that are refusing to pay now. They don't feel compelled to pay. They also had secure backups. So they don't need the decryption keys. But all of this still means there's a claim that goes in because they want help with the recovery, the cost of downtime, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why even they might not be paying the ransomware operators, they're paying on their premiums or their excess and what have you, just to help rebuild.
Well, and you absolutely have to have some of those firms come in and do a root cause analysis and forensics and make sure that the bad actors are out of the system, because you don't want them hanging around if they're not welcome, right? And if you restore that stuff, they're going to be in there.
You want each and every bad actor out of the system. And with that, we like to thank you and see you again next week.